Happy Friday and welcome to day 30. Thank you for coming on to our live this morning. I am Michelle O'Connor, your business growth strategist, and we're at day 30, guys. We've made it. When I decided to do this, there were many things that I thought of, but I never thought that I would get here so quickly. And I really want to thank everyone who has been on this journey with us for 30 days. Whether you've supported in showing up, you've supported in sharing our live, you have supported in making a comment, you name it. Thank you so much for supporting. As you know, when you're in this internet world, sometimes you can feel like you're on this side all by yourself, but you, the community, really made it worthwhile. And so I want to thank you for coming on to day 30, where we're going to be kind of summarizing all the areas that we would have gone through from day one to ensure that you have a full idea of what's next for you, and to really drive home the point that your planning and your strategy doesn't end because you've done your planning and you've done your execution plan or your action plan. It's a cycle, it continues. And yeah, as I was getting ready this morning, I saw this shimmery top, and I'm like, you know what, I'm in a celebratory mood. I'm celebrating this goal, I'm celebrating this achievement. I'm doing what I encourage you to do, which is once you achieved a goal that you set out, to enjoy it, live in the moment. And so that's what we're doing today. I also want to ask you a favor. If you can share with me or share on your various social media platforms, what were some of the highlight moments for you from these 30 days. I'm going to share mine at the end of the presentation, but I would really love to hear from you and to just get the word out. I don't know if we'll do this again. And if we do, at least I would have your feedback. Maybe there were things you were expecting that you didn't see. There's another way that you'd love for it to go. I would really love to hear. And I also would appreciate if you share this on your pages and tag me as well. So let us jump into what we're going through today, day 30. We are talking about monitoring of your execution plan. You've done the work, you've created the plan. How do you monitor it? Person said strategy and execution. I've done both. I can breathe. I am in the green, or I'm in the black. I'm not in the red. So that's what we want to talk about today, just so you can have something to move forward with. Next week is Christmas, and I know some of us are going off on break. So I wanted to, have that conversation. So let us jump into it. As a reminder, what we did over the past 30 days was that we went through a 3-phase journey in terms of looking at our planning and how we show up. We looked at where we are now. We also looked at where we want to be. And then we talked about how are we going to get there. Now, these 3 phases, once you're able to walk through, they have different elements. And of course, it's 30 days. So we went through as much as possible. But I just wanted to remind you that that was the approach that we took. Another thing I want to remind you of is we came from a place that you had your foundation set. You knew what your mission was, you understand what your values are, and you also had a vision. And this vision is for yourself and for your business. It's very important that when you're starting your business, you're growing your business, you're scaling, that these are set. This is what helps you to know the clients that you're going after, know how you want to show up. If you have a value system that you're operating from, that's how you're setting your goals. So these are some things that are foundation for any organization, and I do encourage you to have it. When you have these very clear, it's almost like insurance. You don't know you need it until you need it. And I saw this play through. I've gone through 2 what would I call it? I don't know the word to put both of them in, but the financial crisis that happened back in 2008, I think, and also the pandemic, and the organizations that came out on top, the organizations that really continued to offer value for their customers and remain profitable are those that were very clear on these 3. You can't go wrong when you're operating from a place of vision. So we went through that. Now, just to summarize, and thank you for coming on. Today is our final day for our live, and what we're going through is just a recap as to what you do next. How do you now monitor after you have completed your strategy. So I'm just doing a summary of what we would have gone through. So we provided some clarity. Where are you now? Assessing your environment is important. Understanding your current position, your team, and your business. So in this phase, what we looked at, how are we stacked up when we talk about our competitors? How are we performing? What are our results? What were some of the things that we planned to achieve? How did we perform? And then look at our team, survey scores as one thing. And this, I do hope you're able to see, but I will go through. Just looking at what our vision and our values were. Your personal vision as a CEO is important. Ensuring your team is clear and your company values. We want to check that box. Then you want to look at your internal factors. We looked at SWOT. And I walked you through a whole session as to how to analyze the SWOT, look at your environment. What are some other factors that could be impacting how your business show up? And we looked at how your business was performing, your KPIs, are you on or off target? What are some things you want to change? Where do you want to be? And this is where we are aligning your vision. Now you have a vision as to what your company is going to look like in 5 years, or what you want it to look like in 5 years. In order to align that vision with something, this is now the legs that you're giving it. We now said, where do we want to be? And we're aligning, as I just shared, your long-term goals with a strategic roadmap, a roadmap that is very clear. So we set your 3 to 5 year goals. You can do that. You don't have to have it down to a science, and it doesn't have to be correct. Your 1 year goals, guys, may not even be correct. In 6 months, in 3 months, you may find yourself changing it. We went through a whole session on KPIs and what are some of the things you need to do. And we narrowed down on year 1 goal. And then we started working through, okay, what does this look like? We did some strategic budgeting. And budgeting is not only, I want to remind you that budgeting is not only setting your revenue goals. Budgeting is not only setting your revenue goals. When you set a budget, a strategic budget also includes your expenses. What is it going to cost me to achieve this goal? And that cost could be people, it could be systems and processes that you need to implement, it could be time, a resource, you name it. Maybe you're paying your people overtime, or you're paying them to take on a different role, you name it. But when you talk about a strategic budget, it's not only revenue. And I find that a lot of times that's a conversation we have, and we don't assess our expenses. And I'm really happy that we were able to walk through what that looks like. And this is continuous. As I said before, that when you have worked on your budget, you've worked on your execution plan, in your meetings, which we're going to touch on shortly, you're analyzing your numbers. You're looking at your expenses like, oh, this isn't working, this is working. I want you to remember that this is continuous. You continue to go over the information that you planned for, and that's what's going to help you to ensure you're on the right track. Then how will you get there? And for those who are just joining, we're doing a summary of the areas that we covered in our 30-day challenge. Today is the last day. Today is day 30. And I want to wrap up by just pulling everything together so you know what next and how you need to move forward. So we looked at how we're going to get there. This is now execution and your performance. Understanding your current position again, and your team alignment, right? And there were 4 areas that we looked at: your execution plan, you're setting clear goals. We agreed on what those goals are. You are assigning the task. You're making sure that there's someone who is accountable, and you're setting those timelines. If nobody owns it, it doesn't get done. You walk into a meeting and you're asking the question, who is supposed to do it? Nobody knows. We don't want that for 2026 and beyond. We're setting clarity. We spoke about quarterly, setting those high-level goals, critical objectives for the next 90 days. What are we going to be focusing on? What must we do? If our organization is going to move from point A to point B, what are the things that we need to do in order to shape it? And we work through, I have a rock setting here simply because we went through a conversation about not setting a lot of goals and what we need to do to ensure that happens. we looked at performance management or your KPI dashboard as a CEO. What does that dashboard looks like? You need to have your KPIs. You need to have clear KPIs that you would have set, and how your team scorecard is developed from the corporate dashboard. So persons aren't going out and creating their own dashboard, but they're looking at the corporate dashboard and they're building theirs from that. And your momentum framework. How do you build energy through small wins and celebrating the feedback? Celebrating those wins. And I shared earlier when I just started that I saw this stop and I'm like, you know what, I'm celebrating today. I set a goal doing 30-day live here, and today is the 30th day and I'm celebrating it. What do you do with your team to ensure that you celebrate those achievements? And for this week and maybe the second half of last week, we're looking at performance management, supporting the execution, tracking the process. This is where we spoke about your monitoring, your performance review sessions with your team. We spoke about coaching. We spoke about rewards. All of those things are included. And I really want you to remember that it goes on. So as we look at the performance management, you want to decide, how am I doing this? I'm having quarterly reviews. I'm refining my goals. I am doing regular check-ins. I am having one-on-one coaching session with my team. I'm having those strategic meetings. And it's a loop that happens. You don't just decide that you're going to, I'm going to be having a meeting with my team and then I'm going to management. No, you're scheduling those. We did a session on coaching last week, Friday. What does it mean to be prepared for your coaching? How do you ensure that your coaching sessions are effective? Once you have completed all of this, you go back to step one, because you're constantly reviewing what is happening in your environment. You're constantly looking at your competitors. Then you're looking back at your goals. Are these goals the ones that we want to go after? Has anything changed in our environment? You continue your coaching, you continue your performance review. So this step is something that never ends. That's what I want you to remember. It never ever ends in your organization. And that is how you set yourself up now for success, where you're able to realign if you need to. When you're looking at your targets, you're looking at your people, maybe persons change roles, you need to train persons again. But once you have this down and documented, it makes showing up a lot easier. For those who walk through the process with us, one of the sessions, what we did was we took our large goals and we broke those down into executable steps. That is what you wake up January 2nd, if you're not working on the 1st, on the 2nd of January, and you start working on it. You know what? I know what we need to do. We need to hire first, then we need to get somebody to do, what you're doing. And I want you to remember that. And so I really want to thank you. I hope that you got some value from what we did. But know that execution, you need to monitor it. And you monitor that. We did a session on the 4 disciplines of execution. That was a really good one, I think, for me, because it was a good reminder that you're not just doing things, but there's a way that you do it that brings you ease and less overwhelm and more focus. So that's what I wanted to share with you today, and just remind you that it continues. And as I promised, I want to hear from you. What has been some highlight moments during this 30 days. And I want to share mine. I did some reflection and thoughts about it for myself. And I want to share that 2 years ago, I would have never thought that I would have been doing lives. And I would appreciate it if the AI would clip this part of it so I can share it on my page as well. I would have never thought that I could do 2 lives per month, but I did 30-day lives here. And I'm celebrating that today. Some of the lessons that I learned, one of the things that I had to do was, and you can take this for your business as well. Whenever you're going after a new goal, it's important for you not to just stack it onto everything else that you're doing. think about how it is going to impact it. I did that for myself, and I looked at what would stop me, what would hinder me from achieving this goal. I looked at my workstation and I'm like, every time I come to work, I need to rearrange. This needs to be my safe space where nobody is piling things on my desk or putting things in my way. And I did a full revamp of my workspace because I wanted to remove the blockers. I set up my ring light. I like to have plants around me, whether they survive or not. However, I have a little space here that it has a picture frame. I will show you good vibes only. I don't know if it comes out that way, but it says good vibes only and it has some plants. I wanted to set up the area so it feels welcoming and I can just sit and do work. So that was one of the things that I did. And I encourage you, as you go after the goals that we have set, think about the things that are going to hinder you. Those were some of the things that we covered, like in, challenges and maybe your risk and stuff like that. I rearrange. Another thing I did, and sometimes when we're looking at what's hindering us from achieving goals, it's not the big things. It's some small things that we have control over. So another thing I did was I braided my hair. Sounds simple, but I braided my hair because I thought about the fact that my morning starts at 5:15. I don't want to stop going to the gym. I have other responsibilities that I need to take care of in the mornings before I sit here at 9. So therefore, what are the things that would now take my time up? I need to get ready. It's not like I'm doing a regular work where I can sit how I want. I'm coming on and I want to be professional. So I braided my hair. Now it's one less thing for me to think about, right? So I rearranged my workspace, I braided my hair, and I was able to organize my days better. Another thing I did. So one was removing anything that hinders me from showing up. That just included a lot of things that I just shared. The second thing was that I gained from this was prioritization, knowing what comes first, what to say yes to, how to ensure that the most important thing that needs to get done is done. That is preparing for this live. That's the first thing I do in the mornings. So therefore, I need to prepare from 2-3 days before, the week before, because some weeks I was scheduling the full live. So that was something that it developed a good habit for me. So I started out by thinking I'm giving, and these were some of the things that I got for myself. Confidence. As I said, I would have never thought that I would be able to show up here doing 2 lives per month, but I did it for 30 days, 5 days for the week. So that's good. I listened to myself speak and I listened to the words that I repeat a lot, and worked on my breathing and ensuring that I'm hydrated. So many things, right? So I gained that as well. And another thing that came out of it that I wasn't planning for, because I was just coming to share, is that I have a whole catalog of the process that I use documented in my voice. And I didn't think of it until last week that I have all of these scripts. I have my words. So even when I'm training my AI to do things for me, I can share, this is how I speak. These are the words I use. This is my system. But I'm documenting it in a book, work plan, you name it. I have it documented somewhere. And that was something that I wasn't thinking of getting, but I got it. And I had to submit a video or an audio to a conference host this week on a topic, and I thought to myself, oh yes, I shared that in my live session, so I could pull from it. So that was great for me. And yeah, just consistency and knowing that you set a goal and you continue to do it. I really appreciate each and every one of you who came on. Those who joined, you may have watched the replay. Some persons commented, joined, had robust conversation in the comments, shared their opinion, whether they agreed or disagreed, or you may have just read the caption from the scheduling of the live. You may not have joined, but you read the caption, you gave a comment. I think this is an important topic that we need to talk about. I appreciate that. And so those are the things that I learned, and just a reminder that we continue to challenge ourselves, and you never know what you can get out of it. I thank you for coming on. Again, this is not the end. I am still around, and I do have a few other persons that I had wanted to interview throughout this live that we weren't able to get those done, but we are scheduling those for next year, God's willing. And again, if you would love to work with me at any point in time, I am leaving my calendar, the link for my calendar. Go ahead and schedule your call. I am also providing my email address. This is my email address. I'm just sorry about that. You can send me an email at any time. I hope you have a wonderful holiday and all the best for the new year. Still going to be around, but just in case this is a, this is where you would meet me. I thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for engaging again. And this is the end of our challenge. I wish you nothing but success in your business. Have a great day. Bye.